Welcome to Driven Ops Power Talk. I'm Jasmine Moore.
And I'm Rebecca Heisey. We're two work besties who have spent over a decade learning the ins and outs of sales and marketing.
On this podcast, we discuss all things go-to-market operations, the people, processes, and technologies that make up the engine of a thriving go-to-market function. Let's get to it. Today's episode, I'm excited. We're kicking off our second edition of our tech review series. If you haven't watched the first one, we did Marketo. And today we're doing Salesloft. Salesloft is a sales engagement tool. And if you haven't used one of these before, it's a tool that's meant to simplify, analyze, and streamline the entire sales process by tracking every single touch point with the customer, as well as streamlining workflows and creating automations that just make their lives easier.
Yep, definitely.
So who do you think it's for?
Yeah. Salesloft really specifically, their prime market is sales, right? Like it is a sales engagement platform. Like you said, you hit on all those key points about what it does. But I mean, it really can be for other teams as well. So I've seen customer success use it to just continue to do calls, track their emails with their current customers. You can also use it with sales engineers. They usually like to go back and review calls as well, like especially video conferencing calls or demos that they have. And then you also have marketing. Marketing definitely can go in and help with content creation and just making sure that they build out different cadences and track what they're doing with the sales team.
I like those different use cases because I haven't seen all of those different use cases.
Yep.
This is an interesting perspective because I've used it on a very smaller scale than Becca. But I like the idea of other teams in the tool. And I also like it as a go-between between a marketing automation platform and a CRM.
Yep.
That's how I'm used to it being. I love that all of these sales engagement tools are developing their product to be like the main control center for their sales team.
Yes, definitely.
They want their sales teams to go in there every day, be able to know exactly what they need to do for the day and start executing. And I love that because it just makes it easy because we have all of these tools and they're great and the tools are still integrated and working in the background and your data is being ported into your CRM. But for the rep, they can focus on selling in the sales engagement tool.
Yeah, completely. And to one of our previous episodes also where we mentioned how many marketing platforms there are, right? There's like 11,000 or something. It gets so overwhelming. And honestly, reps get tech fatigue because they are given so many platforms because you have, you have like intent-based types of platforms like ZoomInfo or 6sense, or then you have sending platforms like Sendoso or Postal or whatever, Alice, all of those other tools. So having all of those like integrated into a sales engagement tool where the rep can just have sort of one place to really execute all of those things really definitely helps them to just hone in on their contacts. They have it integrated with their CRM and it helps to just keep things functioning and flowing without them bouncing around to different places.
I love it. All right, we're going to keep the same format here. Let's go through the hits. And we'll go through some misses, some places where we would love to see a little bit more from Salesloft. And then we're going to give our Power Talk rating. So Becca, why don't you kick us off with our first hit?
So my first one that I really like is their conversation intelligence, right? So we already know about the big players in the market like Gong. That's sort of their bread and butter is the conversation intelligence, but Salesloft has really made some major improvements in this past year, honestly. I mean, they have just enhanced, they are like coming to town. They want to be a player in this area, and it's really paying off. And I've seen it grow, and I love the changes that they've made. So just within the last year, they've added so many enhancements. They've already had certain things like tracking terms. So you can list certain things like your product or, just maybe like objections or competitors that might get said in your conversations with your customers or your prospects. The Conversations Intelligence platform will now recap the call for your rep. So they'll have a summary of the call, and then they'll have actual bullet points of specific pieces that were said in the call. So like if a rep says, send this or follow up with so-and-so, it will actually jot those bullet points for the rep, and the rep can just go right in and copy those and send those off in an email, and it's nice and easy. And they can even edit them if they wanted to, but it's just helping to simplify those things. So a few other new features within the conversations intelligence platform is also they've added key moments, which are really nice. Those specifically talk about objections, competitors, and decision-making language that comes up. And then they have this new scorecard, which is very nice as well. So this is primarily for managers. When you're listening to your reps' calls, you can actually now score them, and it'll accumulate those scores that you give them and put them into this other tab called coaching tab. But it's all a part of the data and analytics, but it helps to see like how your reps are progressing and give you some insight on the calls.
And it brings in that like coaching and enablement aspect to where your sales managers can listen in, and you have your scorecard, and you're always improving your reps' performance because you're coaching them based off of their scorecard.
Yep, exactly.
That's so valuable.
Yeah.
And I hope what we see is people start to kind of consolidate their tech stack, because something like that, if it's developed enough, it could replace other tools. I won't mention them, but that's a great value add by Salesloft.
Definitely.
I've really noticed the development that they've been producing over the last year. Salesloft's proprietary tool, Rhythm, it's really neat. It dropped, I don't know, maybe a year ago now, and it uses AI to kind of prioritize the buyers and the accounts for the rep. So what it does, it scores based off of engagement, off of buying signals. It even scores deals so that a rep can go in and focus on what's important and who's the most likely to progress first, which is great because in the past, you have a large list and you could have a huge pipeline. How do you prioritize? What are the different factors that you look at to call Joe over Terry? So I love their Rhythm tool. I'm sure it's going to just keep getting better and better.
Yeah, definitely. And I've already seen also just the success behind it, because it's like you just said, when you're given, especially if you have a large team, if they have a large account base, I mean, that gets very overwhelming for a rep. Maybe they're forgetting who they have to call, or they, are just, they don't know how to really like prioritize their day overall. They're just taking that general list and just executing the tasks. But having this sort of help them and say, hey, we're going to put those people at the top of your list. So these are really the more important people because they have engaged with you versus you consistently calling someone who hasn't answered or hasn't responded to an email. It's huge.
It also takes away one more decision
that
you have to do in a day. I know that there's probably a crazy stat of like how many decisions you make in a day. This just makes it that much easier for a rep to be like, I don't have to know and decide who to focus on first. Rhythm's doing it for me. So this is a really good hit on Salesloft's part.
Yep, definitely. Number 3 hit that I really do want to call out is their Google Chrome extension. So this is really nice because if you are a rep who doesn't like to necessarily be in the platform and you want to work more in your CRM, you don't have to live in the Salesloft platform and you can still get a lot of the benefit from their extension. They also recently upgraded and it's just so much nicer. Before, the dialer used to sit static on the screen. You couldn't move it. And now it's its own tab. So you can move it around. If you have multiple screens, you can, prioritize your tasks as you're talking to your customer and not just like have to be living on the same page as where your dialer is. So it's really nice that they have that. But you can also execute your cadences and different tasks that you have in the day right from that same extension as well. So it's definitely a plus for them.
That's very cool. I think every tool should have a Chrome extension.
Yeah, I know. It's so
I may
nice.
be biased. I'm in Chrome all day, but it's like with the Chrome extensions, you can really do a lot.
Yeah.
I have so many extensions that I use every day.
Yeah.
And something like Salesloft, if I'm a sales rep and I'm in it every day, I can be in my email client and just quickly loft something. And it's just amazing.
And that's exactly how it works, right? It sits all across Chrome. So it goes into any of those platforms, like your Gmail, if you're using Gmail. It goes into Google Calendar if you need that. So it's always there. It follows you right along with whatever you're doing. That's definitely a great feature to have.
Nice hit.
Yeah.
So another hit, and I really appreciate this, Salesloft does a really good job in their training and documentation. I'm someone who likes to self-learn. Like if I don't know a tool, I want to figure it out and I want to read all of the documentations, integration notes, everything. And Salesloft has a really good resource library that's very helpful for admins, for users. They also have a certification program, which is great, especially for practitioners who are managing the tool. A+ for me on the documentation. What do you think?
I definitely agree. Their knowledge base is huge. I use it pretty much every day, if not every day. And most of the time I can usually go right to that, plug in a couple keywords and find an article that's talking about something I need to reference. It's great.
You could tell that they're listening to their customers too, because it's always growing.
Yes.
And you find issues in their documentation. So I love to see a company build on their documentation based off of frequently asked questions.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely a plus.
One thing I really think is cool is when you go to their knowledge base and they have a chat bot and you can ask it a human question. How do I do XYZ? And it will respond. And it does a really good job with giving me step-by-step instructions on how to perform the task. So I really love to see that. I'm starting to see it in more tools. So I love that Salesloft has adopted that.
Yeah, and actually that's really interesting because, recently they just merged with Drift, and I'm wondering actually if that's like a Drift functionality because they have the chat bot like feature. So
we'll have to look into that.
Food for thought. And lastly, which is a huge hit for me, I think, is just Salesloft's customer service. Honestly, I've been working within Salesloft for quite a while, and I've had multiple people that I've had to engage with at the company. And I can say that I can't say a bad thing about anybody. They are all willing to help. They want their customers to succeed. Anytime I've been stuck where maybe I couldn't find something in the documentation, or if I really just needed some advice to get specific about our business need around what I did find in the documentation, they're so willing to like help you get the answer. They also have multiple opportunities for like office hours with different customer success teams. And I really think that like that is just such a huge notch on the like hits for them, because when you are like dealing with your own org, things can get very frustrating, and the last thing you want is a vendor who's not helping you.
Yeah. Their customer success team is on point.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's great. All right, so now we do have to talk about some misses though. I think there's definitely a few things that are in the works and they're making advancements on, but I think that there were big misses, and some of them it's low hanging fruit, I would say, but I know that it's coming, but I think that these are some things that they didn't quite prioritize.
Just fall a little bit short. We'd like to see a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
What's the first miss?
So the first one I would say is their reporting. So it is definitely a very high level set of reports that they have inside the platform. They did recently launch some new layouts in the platform where they're restructuring, and you can tell that they are working on it. So that's a little bit of a less of a notch on that miss, but I would say that there's still some items that I would fix. So for instance, when you go into the reports on the platform and you're trying to dig in, you can't really double click into any of the line items that you see in the reporting. So as an example, if I'm trying to look at a rep who, has really great email metrics or something like that, and I want to click in and say, well, I want to see those specific emails, you can't dig into it. It's very high level. It's very like vanity type metrics on the reporting. So that's definitely a miss, I would say.
Yeah, I would think that would be like a low hanging fruit. Just make it a little bit more user friendly and intuitive. Yeah. My miss does speak to the UI as well, the content portion where all of the assets live in the system. I think it falls short a little bit because it's very hard to drill down into specific assets. This isn't really a problem if you have a small team in the tool, but when we're talking about scaling up to 100, 200, 1,000 reps in your experience, it's very hard because you could have a list of 100 cadences and there isn't a very easy way to drill down. They have a tagging system which can get unruly. I would love to see a better folder structure, in Salesloft. In our last episode, we spoke about how well Marketo does its folders and programming structure. I would like to see something like that in Salesloft.
Yes, I'm right there with you. I think that's what kind of blows my mind at times is how many, I mean, we talk about this over and over again, but there are so many different technologies out there and everyone is competing with each other and they're really trying to kind of do the same thing that everyone is doing. And so something as simple as like that, I feel like they easily could have said, hey, Marketo does this really well. You know, we have a lot of content we have to use. We should create the folder structure too. So that is also a pain point, I would say, for sure.
Hopefully we see that roll out in the future.
Yes, I hope that gets prioritized soon.
Please, from an admin. Dear Salesloft.
Yes. The last miss that I have is their hierarchy structure. So when you're an admin, you have to build out your team's hierarchy on the back end in a manual way. So there's no way to import any other tool's hierarchy structure. So if you are using a CRM and you have a team hierarchy built
like
in
role
there,
hierarchy.
Exactly, a role hierarchy. So if you have something like that in your CRM and that's kind of maybe your source of truth, you can't push that into Salesloft, which creates a lot of problems because again, when you're managing multiple tech stack, things get messy when you have to manually update them. So today, the hierarchy is very manual. You have to build it out from like, this is my top line manager, and then here's the folder structures or the like streamline of their hierarchy below them and who reports to them so that people can see things like their reports or their content. And if somebody doesn't inform you that the team's changed or you don't have like a nice, easy built-in way of a reporting announcement that gets sent to you that, you know, somehow alerts you, it's very easy for that to get messy very quickly. And so that I would say is one of the big misses too.
Yeah, that's also something that may be manageable for smaller teams, but when you get to larger teams, it's very hard to keep track of.
Definitely.
When we do these tech reviews, we like to look at the scalability, the analytics, and the overall usability of the tool in Salesloft. So what do you think our Power Talk rating should be in Salesloft? I have a number in mind. I want to know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
So you have more experience in the tool. So.
Yeah. I mean, I have seen a lot of progress from Salesloft over the last couple years. And so I would say my Power Talk rating is a 7.5, 7.5.
I will co-sign that. I like that.
Okay.
7.5 Power Talk rating for Salesloft.
Yeah. I think it's a good rating. I think they've made some huge improvements. I think there's still some room for growth, but I like where they're going. And now time for coffee talk.
What are we talking about today?
All right. So I'm really curious on what your favorite thing or guilty pleasure is to do to decompress from work.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah. Okay, so this is, I always hate getting asked this question because like, it's like a guilty pleasure, but I'm not really that guilty about it because I love doing it. So what I like to do
no shame.
is, no shame. I think it's great. I work hard. I love reality TV.
Yeah.
So I have my queue on Peacock. I bring up my Bravo shows and I just decompress with my family. We all love Bravo.
Yeah.
This is a
There's
Bravo
nothing
household.
wrong with that.
So to decompress, you know, OC, Atlanta, no.
I was going to say, I'm sure there will be many episodes where you reference something and I will not know what you're talking about.
Did you get that reference that I was just naming?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of reality TV, so this is a running joke between us because I am like the little like separated person who has no clue about the shows that Jazz talks about. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, that was a Housewives reference.
Oh, okay.
If you are a Bravo fan, please let me know in the comments. I know I'm not alone. I know you're out there. So, Becca, what is your favorite thing to do to decompress after work?
Yeah, my favorite thing is probably just go on a walk with my dog. I like to get away from my computer. I put my AirPods in and play some music and just take a nice walk and get some fresh air and get away from technology for a minute.
So I have to ask, Apple Music or Spotify?
I use Spotify.
I knew it.
I know. Again, I don't watch reality TV and I still use Spotify. I know. I think it's just that like I've used it for so many years. I have little folders with all the music that I listen to over those periods of time. And so I just kind of kept it. And sometimes I go back to those folders and I'm like, you know what? I'm feeling like a 2012 vibe. I need to go back and listen to this vibe, something like that. So yeah, I'm a Spotify person.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I'm team Apple Music, but we love Spotify over here.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of our tech review series. Let us know what other technologies you'd like us to review. If we've got some experience, we'll review them.
Yeah, and I would love to hear any of your opinions on hits or misses with Salesloft also. So leave us some comments in the chat. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on all social media platforms.
Keep up with us and all of our hot takes on all things go-to-market operations. See you next time.